you think you're unto yourself at some egotistic point in your life, but really, I look back and it's the base of my family upbringing that has really formed me. And I must say, I was raised in a Catholic family, and my ancestors are from New Mexico. And so we've got years and years and years of history, which I found to be amazing now, because when I first entered into the Chicano movement in the 60s and 70s, people were saying, especially one of my friends, Antonia Castañeda, I had just met her, she was saying, interview your family. And I tell my students that, but it doesn't make any sense to them, like it didn't make any sense to me at the time. I thought, well, why would anyone want to interview my family? We're just a family of poor people and struggling. Why would they do that? But I found out that our families have this incredible history. They have their Chicano history is our family history. And so I really credit my family for the amazing things they've overcome in their life. Both of my parents are from New Mexico. And I'm here by accident of birth, somebody said. And so my father was born in Bernalillo, New Mexico, and it's one of the oldest land grants that still exists. So it's one of the first, and maybe the first and oldest land grants in New Mexico, called Bernalillo. So when he used to talk about Bernalillo, I thought he was talking about some foreign country he was from when I was a kid, because he would talk about it and it didn't make sense to me. I thought we were Californians and that was it. But I found out that we're really connected to Chicano, Mexicano history, and that my mother was also from New Mexico. My mother's grandparents were from Las Cruces in that area. And so my grandmother, my great-grandmother actually, was from Paso del Norte. It was called Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe del Paso del Norte. And so people think of that as El Paso, but all that, people need to understand, all that was one land at one point. This was Mexican land. And so my great-grandmother was born in the mission of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the mission is the oldest mission. It's from the 1600s. So talk about history. That's our history. And so we were part of it, and it's just amazing. My great-grandmother's name was Macedonia Cruz, and she married actually one of the invading army soldiers. His name was Charles Henry Coleman. But it turns out that it looks like he seemed to have a sentiment for the people. He became a part of the mestizo culture. In other words, at one time in history, it was going to be a multicultural society until, of course, racism dominates, and then the Mexican people are reduced to workers, only workers. And so that's the sad part. But yeah, he was part of this mestizo culture. He had to learn Spanish. He spoke Spanish, and so that's part of that one side of my history. So I just love that. It's amazing. And then on my father's side, the history goes back, to the first landings of the Spanish. And people say, Spanish, we're not Spanish. And it's shocking, but yes, we are. Spanish and Indian. And you could see it right there in New Mexico history, where you have the intermarriage of our ancestors, the Spanish and the Indian. And I think for a long time it was a shock to a lot of the New Mexican people, because they tried so hard to preserve their culture. Talk about trying to preserve a culture. The Spanish people trying to hold on to their Spanish traditions, it was really hard. And then if you married into the Indian culture, it was kind of hush-hush. So that's changing now. I work with the people that are doing their genealogy, and you discover that they are discovering their history, and they are realizing that it's really important.